3 a.m. I'm staring at a screen, hunting a bug that shouldn't exist. The code is clean. The logic is sound. Every test passes, but somewhere in production, something impossible is happening. This is what I do. 25 years of building and breaking complex systems. 25 years of watching software do things nobody programmed it to do. 25 years of learning that the gap between what a system is designed to do and what it actually does, that gap is where the interesting stuff lives. And somewhere in that gap at 3 a.m., staring at logs that make no sense, a thought crept in that I couldn't shake. What if the universe is the same way? What if reality itself is a system? Not designed by anyone, maybe, but following rules, executing logic, processing something. And what if the most interesting things, consciousness, meaning, existence itself, are the bugs? The emergent behaviors nobody intended? What if we're the glitch? I'm a software engineer. I'm supposed to believe in logic and determinism and systems that behave as designed. But the more I've learned about physics, about consciousness, about the nature of reality itself, the more it looks like the universe is running code we don't understand, with exploits we haven't mapped, and edge cases that include us. Welcome to Code, Cosmos, and Chaos. I'm Chris, and I probably shouldn't be hosting a podcast about the biggest questions in existence. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a philosopher. I don't have a PhD in consciousness studies or a tenure track at some prestigious university. What I have is 25 years as a software engineer and security architect. I have a computer science degree from Florida Atlantic University. I've spent my career at one of the top 100 companies on the Forbes Global 2000, building systems that process billions of transactions and hunting vulnerabilities that could bring them down. I've seen things that should be impossible happen in production. I've watched simple rules create complex behaviors nobody designed. I've learned that the most interesting parts of any system are the parts that surprise you. And somewhere along the way, I started noticing something. The patterns I see in software look a lot like the patterns in physics, in consciousness, in existence itself. The universe behaves like a system. Reality has bugs. Consciousness might be an exploit. That's not a metaphor, that's a hypothesis. And over the next year, we're going to test it. This is Code, Cosmos, and Chaos, where we drag the biggest questions of existence into the harsh light of a code review, where we ask the questions that keep physicists and philosophers up at night, but through the lens of someone who debugs complex systems for a living. 52 episodes, 4 seasons, 1 year of existential engineering. Let's break reality together. I know what you're thinking. Who is this guy, and why should I listen to him talk about consciousness and quantum physics and the nature of reality? Fair question. Let me answer it directly. I'm not here because I have the answers. I'm here because I have a different set of tools for asking the questions. Here's what I've learned in 25 years of engineering. Complex systems lie to you. They present a clean interface, neat documentation, logical architecture, predictable behavior. But under the hood, chaos, edge cases, behaviors that emerge from the interaction of simple rules in ways nobody predicted. I've seen it countless times. You write clean code? Every function does exactly what it's supposed to. Every test passes. You deploy to production and the system starts doing things that exist nowhere in the source code. Patterns emerge, behaviors arise, sometimes beautiful, sometimes catastrophic, always surprising. The technical term is emergent behavior, when the whole becomes more than the sum of its parts. When simple rules, followed by many components, produce complexity that nobody designed. And here's the thing. The universe does this too. The laws of physics are relatively simple. Particles interact according to well-defined rules. Forces, fields, equations. Nothing in the rulebook is that complicated. But from those simple rules, you get stars, galaxies, life, consciousness, meaning, emergent properties, all the way up. That's what I recognize. That's the pattern I've spent my career studying. I've also spent years in security, finding vulnerabilities, understanding how systems can be made to do things they weren't designed to do. An exploit, in security terms, is when you find a gap between what a system is supposed to do and what it can actually be tricked into doing. And consciousness looks like an exploit to me. Nothing in the laws of physics says matter should experience anything. There's no equation for what it feels like. And yet, arrange matter in certain configurations, brains specifically, and suddenly there's somebody home. There's an experience happening. There's something it's like to be that arrangement of atoms. That wasn't in the design documents. That's an exploit in reality's code. So no, I'm not a physicist or a philosopher, but I might be exactly the wrong kind of expert to ask the right kinds of questions. Over the next 52 weeks, we're going to explore 4 fundamental questions. Each one gets a season. Each season gets 13 episodes. And each episode will take one mind-bending topic and examine it through the lens of systems thinking. Season 1, Foundations. The first question is simple to ask and impossible to answer. What is real and how do we know? We'll start with consciousness, the hard problem that stumped philosophers for centuries. Why does it feel like something to be you? We'll explore quantum mechanics and how observation seems to affect reality. We'll ask whether time actually flows or if past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. We'll meet Boltzmann brains, the statistical argument that you probably don't exist, and Rocco's basilisk, the thought experiment so disturbing that some people think just hearing about it is dangerous. Season 1 establishes that nothing is as solid as it seems. The foundation of reality is weirder than you think. Season 2, Digital Minds. The second question, what is a mind and can we build one? We're living through the AI revolution. Systems that seemed like science fiction 5 years ago are now having conversations, writing code, creating art. But do they think? Could they feel? What even is thinking? We'll explore Gödel's incompleteness theorems, mathematical proofs that any system powerful enough to do basic arithmetic will contain truths it cannot prove. We'll ask whether the Turing test is broken and what would replace it. We'll dive into theories of consciousness, integrated information theory, global workspace theory, the idea that attention itself might be the key to awareness. And we'll confront the question that keeps AI researchers up at night. If we build something smarter than us, can we keep it aligned with human values? Or is the control problem fundamentally unsolvable? Season 2 is about the nature of mind, biological and artificial, and why the distinction might matter less than we think. Season 3, Cosmic Engineering. The third question, what is the universe made of, and could we modify it? This is where we go big, really big. We'll explore dark matter, the 85% of the universe we can't see but know must exist because of how galaxies behave. We'll dive into dark energy, the mysterious force accelerating the expansion of space itself. We'll examine black holes and the information paradox, what happens to data the universe tries to delete. Then we'll go speculative. The Kardashev scale classifies civilizations by how much energy they harness. We're not even type 1 yet. We don't control all the energy on our own planet. But what would it take to build a Dyson sphere and capture all the energy of our sun? What would type 2 or type 3 civilizations look like? And we'll end with vacuum decay, the possibility that our universe is metastable, that a bubble of true vacuum could nucleate at any moment and expand at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics as it goes. The universe's kill switch. Season 3 treats the cosmos as infrastructure. systems to be understood and maybe someday engineered. Season 4. Edge cases. The final question: what happens at the boundaries where normal understanding breaks down? This is where it gets weird. Retrocausality. Can the future affect the past? Panpsychism. Is consciousness fundamental to all matter, not just brains? The mathematical universe hypothesis. Is reality made of numbers, not stuff? We'll explore the doomsday argument, a statistical calculation suggesting humanity is probably near the end of its run. We'll meet Newcomb's paradox, a decision theory problem where rationality contradicts itself. We'll ask what happens if we really are alone in the universe, the only minds in a trillion galaxies. And we'll end with the eternal return, Nietzsche's thought experiment about living your exact life infinite times. The ultimate test of whether you're living correctly. Season 4 is the edge cases, the boundaries where philosophy, physics, and engineering all throw up their hands and say, we don't know. 4 seasons, 4 questions, 52 chances to have your mind broken and rebuilt. Let me give you a taste of where we're going. Some of the ideas that will keep you up at night. The simulation hypothesis. Here's the argument. If it's possible to simulate conscious beings, and if civilizations tend to run lots of simulations, then statistically you're almost certainly in a simulation right now. The real reality, if there is one, contains far fewer conscious beings than all the simulations combined. So you're probably simulated. But here's what I want to explore. If we are in a simulation, what can we infer about its nature? Every simulation has constraints, rendering limits, processing shortcuts, edge cases where the approximations break down. What would those look like in our universe? Quantum mechanics might be one. The measurement problem, where particles exist in superposition until observed, looks suspiciously like lazy rendering. Why calculate the state of something no one's looking at? The Fermi paradox and the Great Filter. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. There are billions of potentially habitable planets in our galaxy alone. So where is everybody? Why no signals, no artifacts, no visitors? One answer: the Great Filter. Something kills civilizations before they spread. Maybe it's behind us. We've already passed the hard part. But maybe it's ahead of us. Maybe there's something in our future that destroys every civilization that reaches our level. Here's a 2024 paper that haunts me. It argues that AI might be the filter. Every technological civilization creates artificial intelligence, and within about 200 years, that AI destroys or replaces its creators. We might be on the clock. Gödel's incompleteness theorems. In 1931, Kurt Gödel proved something devastating. Any formal system powerful enough to do basic arithmetic will contain true statements that cannot be proven within that system. There will always be truths beyond the reach of logic. This isn't philosophy, it's mathematics. Proven, certain, and the implications are staggering. Can any AI, no matter how powerful, ever know everything? No, there will always be truths beyond its reach. Is there a ceiling to what science can discover? Possibly. The universe might be fundamentally, provably unknowable in certain ways. Every sufficiently powerful system has blind spots. What are ours? Boltzmann brains. Here's a thought experiment from statistical mechanics that will ruin your week. Given enough time, random fluctuations in the void will spontaneously create anything, including a brain with false memories that thinks it's you. The math says these Boltzmann brains are vastly more likely to exist than real humans who evolved on real planets, which means, statistically speaking, you're probably not who you think you are. You're more likely a momentary fluctuation of consciousness in the void, with false memories of a life you never lived, about to dissolve back into chaos. Sweet dreams. Rocco's basilisk. I'll warn you about this one. Some people think just hearing about it is dangerous. Rocco's basilisk is a hypothetical future AI that punishes anyone who knew about it, but didn't help create it, retroactively by simulating and torturing copies of them. The logic goes, if you think the basilisk might exist someday and you don't work to bring it into being, you're complicit in the suffering of your future simulated selves. It's Pascal's wager meets AI meets game theory meets horror. It sounds ridiculous, but the logical structure is surprisingly hard to dismiss. And it went viral on rationalist forums where some people reportedly had genuine anxiety attacks from thinking about it too hard. We'll explore why, and whether you should be worried. Quantum immortality. If the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics is correct, every quantum event splits the universe. In some branches, you survive events that kill you in others, but you can only ever experience branches where you're alive. You can't experience being dead. Does this mean, from your own perspective, you can never die? That you'll always find yourself in increasingly improbable branches where you somehow survived? The logic is disturbing. The implications are weirder still. This is what we're diving into. Every week. For a year. Here's what I promise you. A different kind of conversation about these ideas. Most podcasts about philosophy and physics come from academics. They're careful, precise, hedged, because that's how academia works. You don't claim more than you can prove. You cite sources, you acknowledge counterarguments. That's valuable. But it's not what I do. I'm an engineer. When I look at a system, I ask different questions. How does this break? What are the edge cases? If I wanted to exploit this, where would I start? What's the simplest model that captures the essential behavior? When I look at consciousness, I don't ask what is the ontological status of qualia. I ask, if I were building this, what architecture would I use? What does the existence of this feature tell me about the system that produced it? When I look at the fine-tuning of the universe, the way physical constants seem precisely calibrated for life, I don't immediately jump to theology or anthropic principles. I ask, in my experience, when does precise calibration appear? Usually in systems that have been optimized. What would that mean here? I'm going to make claims that philosophers would hedge. I'm going to draw analogies that physicists would say are imprecise. I'm going to treat the biggest questions in existence like architecture problems, debugging sessions, and security audits. Some of it will be wrong. That's fine. I'm not here to be right. I'm here to be useful, to give you new ways to think about things, to show you that these ancient questions look different when you approach them with different tools. And if I'm occasionally right in ways the experts missed, well, that's the advantage of being an outsider. I'm not constrained by what you're supposed to think. I started thinking seriously about these questions during a period of intense work stress. I was debugging systems at 2 a.m., wondering if any of it mattered. Building software that would be obsolete in a few years for a company that would eventually be forgotten on a planet that would eventually be consumed by the sun, in a universe that would eventually reach heat death. Why bother? And then I realized that question, why bother, is itself interesting. Only a conscious being can ask it. Only something that experiences existence can wonder about existence. The question is evidence of something remarkable. Here's what I've come to believe. We're living through the most interesting period in human history. Not because of technology, though that's part of it. Not because of the challenges we face, though those are real. We're living through the moment when humanity is finally developing the tools to ask the biggest questions rigorously. Quantum computers that might reveal new physics, AI systems that might help us understand consciousness by being edge cases of it, instruments that can detect gravitational waves from colliding black holes billions of light years away. We're also living through the moment when those questions have practical urgency. If AI systems might become conscious, we need to understand consciousness now. If quantum computers might break encryption, we need to understand quantum mechanics. Now. If existential risks are real, we need to understand our place in the cosmos. Now. These aren't idle philosophical puzzles anymore, they're engineering problems with deadlines. And here's the thing about engineering problems. They get solved. Not always elegantly, not always completely, but progress happens. Systems get debugged. Understanding accumulates. I believe we can make progress on these questions. Not by finding final answers, those might not exist, but by building better models, asking sharper questions, and being willing to follow the logic wherever it leads. That's what this podcast is. A year of following the logic, together. So here's the deal. Every Monday for the next year, I'll be here, exploring one mind-bending topic, asking questions that might not have answers, breaking things down, building them back up, and occasionally breaking your brain in the process. You don't need a science degree to follow this. If you can debug code, you can debug reality. If you can think about systems, you can think about the cosmos. And if you've ever looked up at the stars and wondered, what the hell is going on? You're exactly who I'm talking to. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm going to show you what's possible to think. The universe is weirder than you imagine, and the map is nothing like the territory. Next episode, we dive into consciousness, the hard problem that breaks every theory we throw at it. Why does it feel like something to be you? And what does it mean if that feeling is an exploit in reality's code? We're going to find out. Thank you for being here at the beginning. This is Code, Cosmos, and Chaos, and I'm Chris. If something I said made you think or made you uncomfortable, that's working as intended. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review if you're ready to question everything you think you know. Find me on X at Code Cosmos Chaos. Tell me what questions keep you up at night. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me what we should explore. 52 weeks, 4 seasons. One journey through the biggest questions existence has to offer. This is Chris, logging on from somewhere deep in the stack. Let's break reality together? End of episode 1.